Blessed love, everyone. How you guys doing tonight? Hope everyone is doing beautiful. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy holidays to each and everyone. Hope you guys had a blessed and wonderful holiday. All right. So, tonight we're going to talk a little about gardening because, for the people. Hey, Diva in the Dot, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Hey, Lara's Garden, how you doing? Thank you guys for being here. What's going on? Yes, guys. All right. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you guys coming through. So yes, tonight we're gonna dive a little into gardening and being successful in garden. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what kind of temperature you're dealing with, you're still able to be successful. And your mindset, it's come with mindset. It come with a mindset, and you got to have a lot of patience, and you got to be willing to learn, open to learn. Okay, because we might be doing garden for a long time, but guess what? We learn something every day. So it's all about learning. It's all about doing your own little research. It's all about being better, preparing better for the next year. Because your mistake this year, sometimes you could overcome it in the new year. Sometimes it could be very challenging with different plants. Some plants can be very challenging, but you got to overcome these plants. You have the power to understand these plants and basically know what they need and what to get them to produce for you. The important thing is able to get these plants to produce for you, because sometimes we can be just planting food, but the production that we getting from the plants, we're not satisfied because we expect a little more. Well, guess what? If we expect more, we got to dive deeper into it. And we got to do more. The more we do, the more we get back. The more we understand, the more we get back. No, I've been doing garden for a pretty long time. And this is why now I come now and I'm willing to share a lot of these information that I have learned over this period of time. I have a lot of experience with the soil. I have a lot of experience with different plants. I do my own experiment. I do my own research. You see, the thing is your garden, whether you're doing container garden, whether you're doing indoor garden, it should become a project for you. It should become a science project for you, because at the end of the day, this is your temperature you're dealing with. This is your climate you're dealing with. So you might be seeing somebody in a different area and they might be doing things a certain way. Okay? You have to see what's working for you in your climate, because you got to remember your growing season is pretty short. Once you're dealing with cold temperature, your growing season is pretty short. In the tropical, people can grow all year round. Like in Florida, the weather is so different that you can grow basically almost all year round in Florida. But when you in different area where you're dealing, hey, Bridget Pepper, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Yes, when you in areas where you're dealing with cold temperature, your growing season is automatically cut. It's short. You have short growing season. So this is why you have no room for mistake. Because any mistake you make, what could happen, you could lose out from a crop. Any mistake you make, you could lose out from your crop. This is why, guys, I put my heart and my soul into gardening, and this is why I'm able to get so much great result. And the thing is, I take my soil very serious. I'm very serious about the soil because the soil is the most important thing in gardening. The soil is the most important thing in gardening. This is where the plant feed from. The plants feed from your soil. So you have to make sure. You see now is the right time to start working on your soil, guys. We in the fall, almost heading for the winter. Now is the right time to start working on your soil. It doesn't matter if you're using container. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in ground. It doesn't matter if you're doing it in raised bed. Now is the time. If you want great success, now is the time to start working on your soil. If you got to buy soil from the store, now is the time to buy this soil and put them in your container or in your raised bed, wherever, and allow it, leave it to break down. Because sometimes many of the things we buy, hey, Sissy Texas Garden, how you doing? Many of the things we buy, they don't actually break down. They not break down as yet. They still need time to break down. So if you buy them now and start working on them, start putting them in your container, put them outside, and just leave them, they have a few months for breakdown. So by the time the spring comes, you actually ready to start planting. Your soil supposed to be waiting on your seedlings, not your seedlings waiting on the soil. The soil should always be prepared and waiting for planting day, not the other way around. It's very important to get your soil going before the spring. Many people doing gardening in cold climate, and some people garden season begin like they start planting in late April into May. And to start planting late April into May, that could be very challenging because by September, the weather starts changing and you again. So there's things you could grow in the winter, guys. There's a lot of things you can actually grow in the winter. And I do grow a lot of stuff in the winter because I do grow broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, cabbage, all these type of plants you can actually be growing in the winter. So for the people who live in real cold climate, you could plant cauliflower, you can plant broccoli, you can plant cabbage, um, collard greens. There's a lot of things you could actually plant. So within that early period before the spring, you could be growing and eating from your garden within that time. When the spring comes, this is when you getting ready. You still harvesting. No, you harvesting. By that time, you'll be harvesting spinach as well. So all these things you could be eating from your garden before the spring even hit. And don't forget, if you're growing pepper, if you're growing okra, if you're growing these type of food, you need to start them indoors. You need to start them indoors Most of these plants, you might require grow lights. Most of them, you might require grow lights because you want to make sure they have the environment is good enough to keep them alive, because it's very challenging keeping these seedlings alive. It's challenging because we got to remember they're not getting sunlight. So because they're not getting sunlight, you got to prepare an environment to keep them alive. And my recommendation when come on watering, and there's a lot of information, guys, but I'm gonna cut it down a little, and then you guys can ask me question about gardening. That's okay. I'll even drop the link if anyone feel like coming up. Okay, because I know it's a lot of it's a lot I'm seeing right now. But let me see. I don't like growing inside. Do we have to? No, you don't have to. Why no why I'm saying to grow in, why I'm saying to start inside. Why I'm saying that is because certain plants require a certain amount of months, right? So if you start the seedling inside, I know it's very challenging. If you start it inside, you can able to get them going. So time as the spring come, you take them out. Just like how you go to the store and you buy the seedlings. Basically, you will be doing it for yourself indoors. So when the spring come, you take them and you carry them outdoors. But there's ways you also can do it outdoors. You can do it outdoors, especially if your ground is not freezing. Because right now I have seedling in the ground, but what I did, I set the seed. Let me see. Okay. I set the seeds. I set out the seeds. Then I had a big white plastic container. A big white plastic container. And what I did, I set the seed and I cover it, and I pull dirt all around the edge and I just leave them there. Why I'm using, you get a head. Yes, exactly. Exactly. You get a head start. That's that's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah, so once your ground is not freezing outside, some people, the temperature gets so cold that the ground start freezing. So that might be a little difficult for people in those areas. But if you're in areas where the ground is not, don't freeze, you could actually start your seedlings outside right now. And just like what I did, I had a big white situ. It got to be a situ plastic container. A situ plastic container where the sun, when the sun shine, they could get the light. They could get the light from the sun through the container. You could do that. That's a good way. You know who did that as well? And did that in a milk jug? I think was Nikki. Nikki did that. And she did that in a milk jug. But you could also use these white situ containers and set your seedlings and cover them. And they do pretty well. So instead of me got to go and buy one seedling for $6, I set my own seeds and take care of them. Now I'm able to have a nice crop of vegetables that I'm going to be planting in the winter. And I'm actually going to be planting these in the winter. So by the time the spring comes, I'm going to be harvesting collard greens, kale, cauliflower, spinach. I'm going to be actually eating these things way before spring. When spring come now, this is when you start to go for the plants, them, the beans, the pepper, the okra, the squash, the pumpkin. This is when you actually going to be start. Hey, Food Forest, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Yes, this is actually what you're going to be doing in the spring when the spring comes, but you actually could be growing food in the spring. You actually could be still growing food in the whether you're using container, whether you're doing it in raised bed or not, you still can able to be eating from your garden. All right, so you want a successful garden, you want your plants to produce in abundance. Let me give you another trick. The soil is very important. And for the people who dealing with container garden, the people who actually dealing with container garden, make sure the container is not too small. Make sure the container is not too small. This is very important. The bigger the container be, the more production you're able to get. So it doesn't matter where you at or where you growing food, you still can be successful. It doesn't matter which climate, and there's things you just have to do. Whether you're in a zone that's don't get cold or you're in a cold area, you still have to plant in big enough container. Your soil still got to be ready to feed the plant. Many times, guys, let me tell you many times what does happen. Many times we go and we buy soil or compost from the store, right? Most of the time, this thing is still wood chip. Most of them did not break down as yet. They're still hard. They're still feeling hard, most of them. And if you decide to plant vegetables in our food in that type of compost, then you're not going to be successful. Why it's not going to be successful? Because these wood chip is not ready to feed your plant. They need time to break down. This is why I'm telling you now is the time to start prepare your soil for the spring. Like now, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm actually in my garden walking, preparing the soil. So when the spring comes, everything is ready. It's just planting. And the next thing again, when you in these short growing season, you must prepare your soil in advance. If your soil is prepared in advance, you stand a way better chance of getting real success. I just got a 10-pack of gallon bags. Now I need to get my soil together. Definitely, once you have the space outside, start getting your soil together, start putting your soil together. You could even put them in the raised bed in the bags and just leave them with the coldness and the heat and just like that, they're gonna actually be breaking down. If we many times what we just do wrong, we wait until the spring to now bringing out our bag and start to put them in container. No, you want the soil and the compost to be ready. So when you plant, it's ready to feed the plant. You see what I'm saying? It's ready to actually feed the plant. You do not want when you plant that your plant just stand up there and not going nowhere. It's like it's stunted. You know what I'm saying? You want when you plant, your plants just keep growing because you don't have time for your plants to just be there for weeks, not moving, just be there stunted. No, prepare your soil now for great success in 2024 gardening season. I'm still getting some of our red native soil to mix with the store soil, like you said. There is a lot there is a construction site by me. I could get some of the native soil. Listen to me. Native soil is very important. And sometimes that's a good idea. Sometimes we run away from the native soil and we run and we buy soil and we have native soil. Listen to me. Even though you're dealing with red clay, you still could grow food in red clay. You just, every year, you just maintain, like feed the soil with some leaf and whatever you decide to feed it with. But you maintain the soil every year. You see what I'm saying? So the soil gonna get better because remember the food that you grow suck the nutrients, the minerals out of the soil. So that's why you have to maintain your soil. I am in the native soil, so yes, the best. Yes, don't give up your native soil. The most you can do is add like compost, your leaf, whatever you add to it to help maintain it. But I'm not giving up the native soil at all. What you're buying is just maybe to add to your native soil. Because I understand that everyone could have the access that they could go and grab some leaves, grab some compost through the farm. People got to do what they got to do. But at the end of the day, whatever you use, I will always use some native soil with it. I will never just go to the store, buy a bags, and just use that bag. No, I will make sure you mix it with some soil. Plant love soil. Whatever the compost you add in is to help add nutrition to the soil. But plants enjoy soil. Hey, Lasha, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Yes. So to have a successful garden, you need to start working on your soil now in the fall. Now in the fall. Get your soil prepared and ready for the spring. Number two, if you are a container gardener, make sure the container is big enough and not too small. The more the root spread, the more the plants produce. If the root not going anywhere, the plant is not going to be producing. Plants supposed to produce until the frost. But if you ain't deal with them right, they could give you one crop. You see what? Hey, Jim Mama, how you doing? Thank you for being here. You don't want one crop from your plants, especially when you're dealing with peppers, when you're dealing with okra, when you're dealing with collard greens, when you're dealing with spinach. You shouldn't have to. Listen to me. Once you plant spinach in the winter, right? Not spinach, collard greens and kale. Once you plant them in the winter, they will last you right through the year till next winter. They will actually last you right through the year. You just got to take care of them. You see what I'm saying? They don't push as much leaf within the summer, but as soon as the fall drop, they come back to life and start pushing leaf again. So be mindful of that. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna drop the link, guys. If anybody wanna come up, if you wanna ask a question, we can. That's okay. Let me drop the link. Okay. If anybody wanna come up, wanna ask question about gardening, I wanna say something, because we all learn from each other. The link is in the chat if you feel like coming up. All right. But guys, every year you do gardening, every year you should learn something new. Every year you do gardening, you should learn something new. There should always be something you learn. You know, it should take you to another stage for the following year. So say for instance, you do gardening this whole season. Remember, it can be very challenging at times. And there's times you could get so much problems. There's times you could get bugs eating down your stuff. You know, it's challenging. So I don't want to sit here and just make it seem like, oh, gardening is just, no, it can be very challenging. So it's got to be a mind, you know, your mind. I learn patience. Definitely. Definitely. Patient. 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 You got to have patience. If you don't have patience, it will be you're really not going to learn because you're going to be getting upset. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes you might be growing some plants and you might notice, you know what, man, these plants is not doing well at all. You know, and sometimes you might give up. You might give up on these plants and focus on the ones that looking nice and healthy. Well, guess what? If you're doing a garden, right, and when you notice some of them is so beautiful and healthy, then you don't need to pay no attention to them. What you need to pay attention to is the one them not doing well. These plants already show you that I'm okay over here. No, you got to pay attention to the ones. And you know what? Sometimes the same one that was there look like they're not doing well. Only looking for your attention. From the time you start to give them the attention, you know what? They end up do better than even the same one over there. So sometimes you got to have patience with these plants. You got to have patience and dedication because you could give up. My thing is, this is something I will tell everybody. And it doesn't matter where you're growing, whether you're growing in the real cold area or whether you're going, it doesn't matter where. Make sure you fix your soil. If you do your soil properly from the get-go, if you do your soil, if you start out building your soil right from the get-go, believe it or not, you'll be surprised. Your job become easier. The better your soil be, your job become easier because it's the soil doing the job. Is the soil really doing the job? Your job is to get the soil right. Keep adding to the soil, and these we're gonna happen. Your soil gonna be getting better. So the soil is the key to this thing. So once you keep building your soil, you'll be surprised the kind of food you raking out your container. It doesn't matter where, or your raised bed or your in-ground. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how big these plants get and how much food they produce. You see what I'm saying? So it's just things you have to do. And it doesn't matter which zone you're in. There's things you just have to do to have a successful garden. And everyone got to use whatever they have to use or what they have access to. You do what works for you at the end of the day. All right? But my goal is if you have access to more natural product or more natural thing, take advantage of it. Use them. Okay? Because in the long run, you know, many things we use from time to time, and guys, I know this, it do not help your soil. Some of them just allow your plants to get big, and the next year you realize your soil just getting worse and worse. It start getting sandy because whatever you put in is sucking out the nutrient out of the soil and all the minerals. So the more natural you go is better. I'm not saying you got to go 100% natural. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, the more natural you go is the better result you're going to get. Nature builds soil in layers, in inches. Every 10 years, you can build 10 inches in a day. Yes, the honest truth, nature does wonders in your garden. And two, yes, food forest, that's true. Some of the time too, we we so disconnected from nature these days, man. You know, hey Fifi, how you doing? Thank you for being here. We so disconnected from nature that we don't even, you understand, we don't even understand how far we are disconnect ourselves from nature without even knowing it. It's not to say that we know it and we was aware of it. That's how it designed anyway. But if we could even find ourselves back, because the honest truth is, ain't much you got to do to your garden, ain't much you got to do. What you got to do is make sure your soil is right. Make sure you prepare your plants in a way that they could strive. Nature gonna do the rest. Just like how I was mentioning a few minutes ago. If you planted in container, if the container is too small, ain't much could happen. You see what I'm saying? If the container is too small, ain't much could happen. If the container is big enough and the soil is right, wonders could happen. You see what I'm saying? So once you do the necessary steps, your job become way easier. Less work for you. So for the container garden, prepare your soil in the fall for the spring. Get your soil going. I mean, anybody, raised bed, same thing. Prepare your soil ahead of time. Make sure that the container is not too small. I stress this a lot because I know the benefit of having a container that big enough to house the root of the plant. You know, it's important because, you know, I keep saying it. I don't know if when you guys go to the store and buy a plant or a seedling or whatever, when you're taking it out of the container to transplant it, I don't know if you guys notice how the root does wrap around the plant. The root does be growing and just wrapping itself around in the container. Now, if the container is too small, the root gonna just be wrapping itself until it just stifle out its own self. And then you're not seeing anything. The plant ain't growing. Then if it grow, you mightn't see much fruit from it. You might just see too little fruit from it because the root system is important. Remember, the root is where the plants feed from. This is where the plants feed from. So the more the root spread, the more food, more nutrients it bring back to the plant. So it's important. We already know that the plants love to spread their root. what we doing, plant, they're not designed to grow in container, right? They was just growing out there wild wherever. We know is who taking them from out of that environment, their way of growing, the way they grow outside in the ground. We taking them away from that and place them in a container. So now if we placing them into a container, we got to make sure that they're able to get the amount of room that they need, just like where they want to get in the ground. So this is why it's so important to have a container that's big enough to house them. We got to basically create the same type of environment that they get in the ground. Hey, the mood, what's up? No, when we growing in the ground, right? The plants is in the ground, right? The sun only could penetrate from the surface. It cannot penetrate from the side, right? It only penetrates from the surface, right? So when we're in the container now, the sun penetrates the surface, it penetrates the side, it penetrates all the sides. So that's a lot of heat, especially in the summer. We're dealing with a lot of heat here now. It coming down on the plant, and it also coming around and penetrate the container itself. So that's ton load of sun we get in there now, the container. This is why it's so important to have a big enough container, right? Why? Because when these roots start spreading, these roots gonna start spreading, and when they hit the container, they're gonna find themselves start going wrong. So now, where this root is now, this root is on the outer side, the outer part of the dot, right? Now, when the sun penetrate, from the surface, from the top, from the side, this is a lot of heat these roots gonna be dealing with. So if you have a big enough container that this roots could just spread and be in the soil instead of hitting around the container, and then the sun come and penetrate the container so hot in the summer till it start to dry out the roots them. So now the roots them start getting damaged. Now it's so much this plant could do for you. Ain't much, because the root cannot go anymore. So what it's gonna do is gonna just stand up there, and then it might start to even, the leaf they might start to get little dry. You see what I'm saying? The leaf gonna start to get dry because the root system is important. The root is what keeps the plant alive. The root is what sucks the nutrients, the minerals to feed the plant. So you understand how important the roots are. So for container garden, please make sure if you're growing food, invest in bigger containers than small containers, because it will be a waste of your time. And this doesn't matter where you're growing food. It's for everybody. Doesn't matter where. The container have to be the right size for the plant. This is how you get great success. Start fixing your soil in the fall, and make sure the container is on the right size, and you could be very, very successful. Now, let me talk about watering in container. I'm going to do container tonight. Let me talk about water in the container. Sometimes, sometimes when I'm watering my container, sometimes you could naturally see you could naturally see in the container the like mass, like the, you know, like you could naturally see the richness in the container, right? When you turn the soil. Why you see that? Because when I wet the plants, I wet the plants that the plants will only wet the soil, not for it to run outside. I just wet it, that is called wet, soak the soil, that the roots can get whatever water it needs. I don't pour water inside of it, because why I don't do that? The reason why I don't do that, because when we do, we wash out a lot of the nutrients out of the container. You see what I'm saying? We wash it out, because when we pour the water and the water drain out, it jogging out. It's like it's straining the nutrients out of it. So I don't do it that way. I sprinkle and soak the soil. Soak it. Soak it. When I don't soak it, you barely see any water coming out of the container. Because if you watch out the nutrition out, the nutrients out the container, then what the plant gonna have? All the plant gonna have is some dry, sunny soil to deal with. This is why I always try to recommend always add some native soil or some clay. You could always add a little layer of clay inside your container, because what happens is the clay is what gonna hold that water in the container, because you see how the clay is. Just put a little layer of clay, and that will help keep the moisture, helps keep the container moist, because that heat ain't no joke, guys. That heat is not no joke. All right. So for container, make sure the container is big enough. Make sure your soil is prepared ahead of time. So when planting time come, the plant is ready and you okay. You could either put it in the bottom or the middle. You could either put it in the bottom. Either way is gonna, hold the moisture, because with clay, when clay soil wet, it's able to hold moisture and last for a longer period of time. So you could even lay it in the bottom, or you could lay it in the center, just a thin layer of clay, especially in the summer, because this is when the heat penetrates. So that's gonna help hold the moisture and wet the plant enough that it soak the container, the soil, and the plant could actually get the water, not for it to run outside on the ground. So these are things, man. It doesn't matter where you're growing, whether you're in the coolest spot in the world, it doesn't matter where. There's things you just have to do to be successful. And meanwhile, I'm just giving hint of how you can do things, but at the end of the day, while you're doing it, you could learn. You could be learning at the same time. Hey, urban gardening, how you doing? While you're doing it, you could learn at the same time. And once you see, once you open your mind, once you have an open mind to gardening, it's gonna just start coming natural, because you gotta open up your mind, and you gotta willing to learn to. You have to willing to learn, because it's a lot to learn. It's a whole lot to learn when come on gardening. you could never stop learning. But my thing is success. Being successful. This is my thing is having a successful garden season. Whether you do it big or whether you do it small. Having a successful garden season is what's matter. Because at the end of the day, you growing food for you and your family, whether it's vegetables, whether it's whatever you decide to grow. But I always recommend some food for you guys to try. Try it, it's food. It's food, and once you have them, you always have food. You see what I'm saying? I always talk about the Edos. That's always have food, guys. Pumpkin, but not everybody have the room for pumpkin. But Edos, you could grow Edos in a container as well. Like I always said, make sure the container is big enough, not too small. You want great success, the container must be big enough. And even though for the people who do an ingrown, for the people who plant ingrown in a raised bed, your soil is supposed to be prepared and waiting for that plant. Your soil should definitely be prepared and waiting for that plant. Just there waiting. And you see, the most delicate time in gardening is the baby stage. The baby stage is the most delicate time in gardening. The most delicate time. Just like a baby, actual baby. But once you get that plant growing, you know, it gives you such a beautiful green. It gives you a green that it shows you. You could naturally know, okay, yes, this plant take off. This plant is going. It's important to get them to that stage. It's important to get your plants to that growing stage where you know that they grow and they're ready. Because once you get them to that stage, there's no turning back. Your job becomes easy. So, guys, you know, there's times when I spend 8 hours, like in the springtime. Sometimes I spend 8 full hours in the garden. Sometimes I spend 6 hours, 7 hours in the garden, but that's the only time. Because this is a delicate time. This is when they need your presence in the garden. See, this is when they need you. After that, let me see. Wait, the mood hold on. Well, okay, well, you talk to Fifth, so all right. So if all right, the mood. I hope you guys doing better, man. I hope everything going good. All right. Okay. Yes, but I want to see everybody with being very successful, man. And guys, you in your zone. Once you're doing it, you're gonna learn because this is in your zone and this is where you're growing. So you will learn while you actually doing it. Okay, you could get information now, but while you're doing it, you will learn what works for you. You will learn which time you got to bring out your seedlings. You're going to learn which time is best for you to bring out your plants in the spring. You will learn when to bring out your plants in the spring for them to start get hardened. Because remember, you can't just take your seedling from outside and just take them out there. Because the sun gonna be too hot So the sun might scorch up the leaf, which I've seen happen before. So you got to take them out. Like say for instance, you start your seedlings indoors. You got to start taking out your seedlings and put them in shaded area in the spring. Shaded area where the sun can, the heat from the sun could start hardening their leaf. You cannot just take them up and plant them outside because you could end up losing them after spending so much months taking care of them. So the process, it ain't easy. Starting from seed is a big challenge, especially if you in the cold area. If you're in the colder area where the ground froze up for you, that means you cannot start outside. You got to start indoors. So you got to make sure you keep these things alive for months upon months before you could take them outdoors. So you don't want to go through all these months fighting to keep them alive. Then one day you take them out and the sun just dry them out. No, that's too hard. I'm trying to save you from that. So this is why I'm here saying this, because I know there's a lot of new gardeners trying, and my goal is to help them however I can. I give the information because these are things I know. This is not something I'm just saying. You must harden off your seedlings. No, you indoors and you want to set seeds. You indoors and you trying to set your seedling indoors. No, you got to make sure you cannot overwet these seeds. You cannot overwet the seeds. You cannot overwet the seedlings. The honest truth is, I barely wet my seedlings them indoors. I barely do it. Sometimes I push my hand down and feel. Then if I feel no dampness, I might sprinkle. I just sprinkle it because you cannot overwet it. Why you cannot overwet it? Because the sun is not inside. If the sun is in, then it's a different thing. The sun is not inside, so you cannot overwet your seedlings. You have to allow them to, once you wet them, you got to allow the water to, to suck out, drain out. Then you could wet them again. Sometimes there's something we call drowned or seed. Drowned mean overwetting them and they spoil them. They end up get rotten. And they never germinate because you overwet them. Then sometimes the seed already germinate, but guess what? Now you start to overwet them. Now, by you overwetting them, what start happening? The roots start rotting. Now you lose all your seedlings. So these things is very, very important. And like I said, it doesn't matter where you're growing. You could be growing in Russia, wherever. You have to be cautious of your seedlings, very important, and your seeds. You cannot overwet them because you could lose them. Okay? Same thing with your plants. Same thing, sometimes, transplant into a bigger container. You still can't overwet them sometimes. Because some plants really don't like that big set of water around their roots. Some plants really don't like that. Some plants just love their root to wet and the water run off and go its way. So you just, and then you just let it wet and the water go down to the bottom. Some plants don't love, and these are things you have to know. You got to know the plants them you growing, which one love water and which one don't. Because there's plants love their root to be swimming in water. And there's plants who don't like, they just want to get wet and that's it. So It's so much to learn in this thing. It's so much to learn in these things. That's why, man, we got to try, like I keep saying, guys, like I keep saying, guys, you got to go where you can find the information, especially people in your zone, that people growing in your zone, you could learn from people like that as well, too. You know what I'm saying? You try to find, like, for instance, if you're in a zone, you could find people, you could find farmers. You might be able to find local farmers or gardeners in your zone that might be able to help you as well. You ask question. It's one thing with a lot of us, man. We willing to share this information. We not holding this up to ourselves. We willing to share. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you can go in your area and you might see, because I look, for instance, I've been growing sorrel, but I'm not successful with the sorrel because the winter always catch them before they start producing. Then I saw someone about 15 minutes away from me actually growing sorrel. Now I ask them, now they're telling me the type of sorrel that they're growing. The one I'm growing is a more longer days sorrel. The one they're growing is a shorter days sorrel. So you see, we could ask questions. That's how we're gonna learn. That's how we're gonna educate ourselves. But listen, me man, we hitting for 2024 gardening season, man, and you gotta be ready. You gotta be get your soil going. And guys, don't forget as well, Plant a Herb Garden Challenge is coming up. Thank you, I appreciate that. Plant a Herb Garden Challenge is coming up on May the 4th. Please don't forget, guys, start grabbing your seed, start putting your stuff together, start getting your soil together. Because, man, let's take this thing to another level, guys. Plant a Herb Garden Challenge begin on the 4th of March to the 25th of June. All right, let's make it happen. I know it seems like it's far away, but guess what? We in November, getting ready to hit December. So let's make it happen, man. Let's make it happen. Does anyone have any question they want to ask before I end this live? Any gardening question before I end? No questions? Okay, let me see. Thank you for your passion for us to be great gardeners. You welcome, Bougie Pepper. You welcome. You welcome. Yes, man. I'm trying to see everybody be successful in this thing, man. Because at the end of the day, it's about survival and providing for you and your family. And if you're able to do this, it make life a lot easier. It really make life a lot easier for you. I'm telling you, it do. You know what I'm saying? It help you save a lot of money because as we see today, things getting expensive and it's getting more and more expensive. I mean, just now, how people gonna really make it when you really check this thing out? for where we see this thing is going, how people are going to survive. Jobs, people losing their jobs, and everything just getting expensive. How would we able to make it in this time coming? And we got to take this thing serious, man. We got to take this thing serious. And we got to get, your family, your household, man. You got to get your household in grip and let everybody know, man, listen to me. This is hard times coming. And we got to be prepared. We got to learn how to survive. We got to learn how to grow something. It doesn't matter whether it's a few. It's better than nothing. Thanks for sharing your knowledge as always. You're welcome, Fifi. Thank you guys for coming through, man. I appreciate you guys coming through. And as always, man, we're going to continue this thing, man. Continue pushing the information, continue helping as much as we can, continue motivating new gardeners, continue showing people that this thing ain't as expensive as it seems. A lot of people put it out there and it discouraging people because it's making people feel like, no, I can't spend that amount of money. When is it ain't that serious? You know what I'm saying? You might be seeing people going and buy 50 bag of compost from the store and you looking at it as, I can't afford that. Well, guess what? You could go right in your backyard and dig up some soil. You see what I'm saying? Dig up some soil right in your backyard. You ain't got to go and buy 50 bags like when you see people loading up and coming back and you watching them. That's a lot of money they spend. You ain't got to follow them. This is what I'm saying, guys. You got to look at you got number one, you got to remember the level of gardening you want to do. Do you want to be a gardener that spend thousands of dollars every year? Or you want to be a gardener that don't spend any money and still able to harvest in abundance? Which one you choose? Okay, so you decide that. And you follow people who could guide you where you want to go. I'm not telling you to follow anybody's, specific. I'm just saying, if you want to go where the fancy gardening, where you got to spend thousands of dollars every year, and then you're not even sure if you're harvesting anything, well, that's good. That's you. You decide that. If you want to follow people who actually ain't spending any money, but this garden still producing in abundance, that's still your choice. You see? So it's your decision. But just be positive and have an open mind. Be willing to learn, and this thing it will just come natural to you. It will just come natural. So yes, guys, thanks again for always coming to. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like this video. And don't forget, guys, we will be back Thursday. I think I'm going to start doing it at 7 now because I know some people are working and some people are at work. So yes, don't forget we're going to be back next Thursday, this Thursday. I'm thinking I'm going to start maybe 7:30 because of time change. So yes, guys. So you guys have a blessed and wonderful night. Thank you, Buji, for coming through. Thank you, Fifi. Thank you, Orban. Thank you, Diva. And everyone who come through tonight, man. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Thank you guys so much. Hope to see you guys Thursday. Enjoy. Peace, love, and blessing to all. Thank you all. Orban, yes, thank you, Orban, for coming through. Thank you, D-Mood. Yes, man. Everyone come through tonight, man. Blessing. And D-Mood, I hope everything okay, all right? Just stay safe, man. Just stay safe. All right. So, guys, see you guys Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Thursday topic, I think Thursday topic gonna be a little in depth. Oh, feeling better. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thursday topic gonna be a little in depth because I want to be an open discussion and I also want to be an open panel. I don't know if everybody will want to get to in this topic, but I think it's important because for what we see into the man is like the topic for Thursday gonna be is cannabis, right? Is it helping the young generation or it basically messing it up? Because the honest truth is, I see this thing as a more tea than even pulling through your system. I see it as a more herb as a tea. But we could talk about that Thursday if you guys interested. Open panel that you could jump up and we could have this conversation. You know what I mean? Because everyone have their own opinion, and over there, everyone have their own opinion, and you have a right to your opinion. But let me just do it as an open discussion with our own ideas, because there's kids out there, man, and it ain't like how it used to be. This is the thing. It ain't like how it used to be. It's all different kind of stuff people using now, and you guys have an idea what I'm talking about. But I want to have a conversation about that. But but yes, guys, thanks you guys again. Appreciate you guys coming through, man. You guys stay safe, stay warm, stay healthy, be good. Peace and love. Thank you all.